USC just added 310 pounds to its defensive line room, and the team is feeling a vibe right now.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you are listening to your podcast. This show is always going to be free, and this show always appreciates your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms will apply. Before I get into today's practice coverage, let me pop this up here. Let me get this video going. Show you the team walking on out. Here we go. All right. So while you watch that, I will do my talking. I guess the best way to kind of summarize the way that Jamil Muhammad is feeling about the team right now, defensive lineman for the Trojans, I'm gonna coin the phrase that Jacoby Covington used towards the end of the Holiday Bowl. You remember that video I caught? He was running by the camera. We a team now. We a team now. Those four words. What Jacoby was saying, it's not just the offensive guys on one side of the locker room, the defensive guys on the other side of the locker room. 8 months later, Jamil Muhammad is basically confirming, shedding some more insight into what Jacoby Covington was feeling, what the team was feeling, the vibe. USC held their 11th practice on Wednesday. I was out there. Team was back in full pads, as you can see. As I'm speaking, there's Kobe Pepe and Carlon Jones, 94 and 92, respectively. I want you to keep an eye on the walkout. Look for another 6'3", 310-pound young man that's going to make himself known here sooner rather than later. So let me just get back to talking. Anyways, team was back out there, full pads. After practice, we spoke with Jamil, and a couple of times he mentioned this. He mentioned how close the defense is, but he also talked about how close, and he really stressed this, how close the offense is compared to last season. Not defense and offense being close to, doing what they need to do. He's talking about the camaraderie, the two of those groups coming together. Quote, one thing I can point out about this team that's different from last year is the offense is so close with the defense and the defense is so close with the offense. Last year, it was like that, but it wasn't the whole team. This year, it just seems like it's the whole team. So again, not that they weren't a close unit last year, but he just seems to notice it more this season compared to 2023. And I think a lot of that had to do with the way the games were playing out. Stuff happens in the locker room. Maybe fingers weren't being pointed, but looks were being given. How's that? So he continued. Ending the year the way we ended it, aside from the bowl game, nobody in USC history wants that to happen. And you definitely don't want to be the team to have that type of season. This place is used to being number one year in and year out. I think we just hated being those guys to let that go down. And obviously, Coach Riley took some responsibility. He took it to heart as well, being that he went out and got a new defensive coordinator and made some other changes. I thank him at the end of the day, because without some of those changes he's made, we wouldn't have been able to make some of the changes we've made, referring to the players' responsibility. So I think Jamil feels this way because, again, his head coach has changed the way he's approaching everything, specifically the team. And remember these words from Coach Riley? We want to remind everybody. What I told Coach Lynn is my mentality going into it is we're going to do everything that we can in this program to accelerate the process of us playing great defense at USC. And whatever it takes to get that done from a development standpoint, from a staffing standpoint, from the way that we practice, everything here is going to be done with a defensive mind first. Again, the edge here is always going to go in what's best for our defense. How do you like John Humphreys? Yeah, first fight on that I saw from him. Anyways, so now you've got the new defensive coordinator teaching the team. You have a coaching staff with an NFL background. You have added size up front, up and down the roster. Forget the defensive line, offensive line. Added size all over the place, both sides of the ball. And now you have Jamil Muhammad. He's having fun. He's playing football. He's having fun playing football again. But there's so much more to his confidence. He continued with our, not just the conversation with Locked On and On 3. He was talking with the media. He said, I feel like as of right now, I think this team is probably closer than maybe we were towards the end of last year. That's saying something, being that we have a lot of new guys that came in. Now, you've heard me on this show numerous times talk about the rumors, the whispers when the season was coming down the stretch, how some of the guys, not only physically, but mentally checked out of the team. So Jamil talked about how this offseason, there was more buy-in type of activities from the guys on the roster. He said, we took it upon ourselves to have a lot of player meetings, captain and leader-led meetings. I took my guys out to lunch. I'm sure the inside backers did the same with theirs. We did a defensive line dinner with Coach Henny. They've been preaching, get to know different guys. So we implemented some things in the fall camp where we were able to spend more time with people we normally don't spend our days with. He finished it with this. I'm excited. I'm ready for September 1st. That's all I can say. You know what? I'm excited too. I really am. After almost 2 weeks of fall camp, it's in the books. I'm ready for Las Vegas. I need to see USC and LSU kicking off. We need to see that happen now. But here's a few more notes from practice number 11 from fall camp. So today was Donor Appreciation Day. Basically, a select group of wallets, they were invited to watch practice. When I say wallets, the donors with the big pockets. One of the lucky Trojan family members who, when they left, he told me how, and this was off the record, how impressed he was with what he got to watch. He said what really stood out was the team's camaraderie, their size, watching the coaches teaching the guys how to do their stuff properly with the right technique. That's what stood out to him. So you're not just hearing it from me now. Some of the fans are seeing it firsthand. My everydayers who listened to yesterday's show, you heard me talk about how the staff wants more consistency. And how a great player is not just someone who makes great plays, not the occasional play. They need to make great plays all the time. They need to be consistent on and off the field. I don't know if you noticed in this video when it first started, Bear Alexander, he is leading by example right now. He has consistently been one of the first position guys hitting the practice field. Today, he was like an hour ahead of schedule. That's cool. Love to see that. That's a great sign. We were hoping to talk with Bear after practice, but there was a schedule conflict, not just with him, with some other players as well. So they're gonna try and squeeze him in, if not tomorrow, next week. I mentioned you saw John Humphrey. He's officially a Trojan now in my book. He's ditched the yellow jersey. You saw him flashing that V for victory sign. Coach Doug Belk, he spoke after practice. He talked about John. He said he's playing catch up right now, but the reason they're not closing the competition, it's because the secondary there's no reason to. It's so deep. You've heard me say it 100 times. Coach Belk said he's hoping to play 8 to 10 DBs every game. And he wasn't talking about incorporating them into special teams. He's talking about in defense in general. That's how good they are. That's how deep they are. Speaking of Jalen Smith, he is the group's Swiss Army knife this year. Consider him like Gino Quinones. He can play all 5 positions. It's going to be interesting to see where he eventually ends up. The wide receivers themselves, they were working on their blocking skills during practice. Definitely out there on the edge. You guys remember that flanker screen pass that Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian and Clay Helton fell in love with? It's still in the playbook, letting you know right now. So, yeah, for the last week, let me get rid of this. Bring me back up in here. There we go. So, for the last week, I've been teasing about a really big body, been hanging out at practice, defensive lineman. Well, today, Malik Kash, his nickname is Kash. His name is Malik Amos. He was ready to practice. I'm going to give you some insight into this young man in the next segment. Plus, is USC getting another offensive line commit? We're going to talk about that in segment 2. So I gave you a little bit about practice segment 1. I'm going to give you a little bit more in segment 3, but first, you got to stick around. You got to hear this. I'm sure, like a lot of you, I love going to Dodger Stadium. I was going to Dodger Stadium before they had all those corporate logos out there on the walls, blue walls. Parking was inexpensive. Not anymore. But with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. That way you know what you're getting. That way you know you're actually getting a great deal before you check out. And you can buy your tickets in seconds. It'll take you 2 taps, and you are done. USC fans, LSU fans, I got some of those. You're watching the show. Do you have your tickets for the game yet? Game Time has tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. And the Game Time guarantee means you're never going to find seats for less, because if you do, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference if you find seats in the same section and row for less. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you again for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. I see the numbers. It's getting bigger. We're growing. Thank you. That's because of you. But you know what? When you're done making Locked On USC your first listen, head on over there to the Locked On College Football podcast. Spencer McLaughlin's your host. He's going to get you ready for the conference realignments. He's going to get you ready for the transfer portal. He's got you covered with NIL, the new college football playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right. So it's taken a little bit longer than anticipated, but Lincoln Riley and Coach Henny and Coach Dua and Antonlynn, defensive coordinator, they're finding some guys that can help the defensive line's interior. We know about Nate Clifton. He came over in the winter. We know about Gavin Meyer, late addition after spring camp. Well, you might have noticed a really large individual walking out. He was wearing number 59, by the way, cardinal jersey, when you were watching that during the first segment. His name is Malik Kash Amos. He's 6'3", 310 pounds. He's a JC transfer from Fullerton Junior College. A couple of footnotes for this young man. At his commencement speech at Fullerton, he was distinguished as the Distinguished Student of the Year. He was the Student Commencement Speaker, and he's also a member of the Alpha Gamma Sigma National Honor Society. High praise, right? Here's my favorite part. This is his statement on his social media. My whole life, I've been told I'll be a product of my environment. Look at me now, a product of my decisions. That's deep. I love that. He is at USC because he is a product of the decisions he made. That's how he ended up at USC. It's a pretty cool little story. So ever since fall camp opened, I kept seeing this really big body walking out to practice every day. I talk about it in my practice reports. I was like, who is this man-child? I got to know. So I was asking a couple of people around with the program. I asked Katie Ryan, sports information director. She goes, I think his name is Kash. I asked her protege in training. Her name is Six. And she said, his name is Kash. But that's all I kept getting. No one could give me any more information. I'm not sure if it was on purpose, whatever. Once I kind of get that, I'm kind of like a dog with a bone in his mouth. I don't give up. I keep going. So like I said, I told you that walk-ons were going to be added once they were cleared. You have to go through the medical clearance and all that kind of stuff. Apparently, due to logistics and vacation, Kash, he had to wait a little bit longer than he wanted to. But now he's been medically cleared. He's wearing the knee braces. He's ready to go. So here's his backstory. In 2022, he was a 2-star athlete coming out of Whitney Young High School in Chicago. He played tight end. He played defensive line. He's listed as an athlete coming out of high school. So 2-star ranking. He wanted to come to LA. That was his goal. So he took the only West Coast offer that he had at the time, Whittier College. You might have heard of them. Little local private school. Well, he spent a semester there, and Whittier decided they were going to shut down the football program. Yeah. What kind of luck is that, right? So what did he do? He didn't quit. He packed his stuff up, drove down the 5 freeway a little bit, ended up at Fullerton Junior College. So he like I said, he spent a semester at Whittier, and then he spent at least a year at Fullerton JC. I mean, we're in 2024 now. So in his time there, he obviously did very well academically because he applied to USC academically. He was admitted. So once he got to USC, he started the introduction process with the coaching staff. He showed him the game film he had. He's got game film from high school. He's got game film a little bit, I guess, from practice at Whittier. Something going on over there at Fullerton JC. Coaches like what they saw. And here we are. Boom. 6'3", 310 pounds. Do me a favor. Go check out his huddle film. Malik moves really well for a guy his size. And look, I have no idea if he's going to play this year. But what I do know, he's extremely intelligent. He passes the first guys off the bus eye test. And based on his, again, look at me, I'm now a product of my decision statement. I know he has that dog work attitude in him. Coach Henny, Coach Nua, they're not going to waste their time on somebody who just wants to be a part of the program. You better be able to bring something. I think Kash brings something more than just size. I've already put a request in for him to come on the show. And since he's a walk-on, it shouldn't be one of those situations where he's got to get clearance from Coach Riley. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh, and some other roster news. Not done yet. Yeah. Let's talk about the 2025 roster. Potential news here. So USC just added another nice piece to their defensive line. All right, got some more help for the interior. What if USC can add a 4-star offensive tackle? You know the name. His name's Nick Brooks. Well, he's ready to make a commitment. He's ready to jump in, both feet, let everybody know where he wants to play college starting in 2025. Again, 4-star tackle, offensive tackle. He told On3's Hayes Fawcett that he's ready to make his decision August 23rd. So a little over a week from today. He's going to be choosing between Georgia, Texas, and USC. Those are his 3 finalists. This is what he told On3's Chad Simmons. It could be any of the 3 schools. I'm going to keep talking to the coaches at all 3 schools, make sure I have all my questions answered, and then go over things with my family. At different times, I have the different schools on the top of my list. It's been fluid because of the relationships and how I like all 3 a lot, but I want to make a decision soon. I thought I would be committed already, but I know it's coming this month. End quote. Did you hear him use the F word? Yep. We use the word fluid and recruiting around here all the time. I don't make these things up. You just heard it from the horse's mouth. As far as Brooks' commitment, it's coming down to NIL, plain and simple, bottom line. And you would think that, First of all, he's 6'8", 340 pounds. He's originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He recently, ahead of this season, moved down to Loganville, Georgia. He wants to play for that powerhouse program, Grayson. So you would think that gives Georgia the advantage. Not necessarily. Nope. Location is not at the top of his priority list. I'm going to use Nick's own words. The number one thing for me is the chance to play and compete for early playing time. So you can get that at Georgia? Maybe not as much as he would at USC or Texas. NIL is important too. And that would be number 2 on my list. Then it comes down to relationships, family, and how I feel about the school. You know what? I got to respect the fact that the guy just said it. I want to know that I have an early chance to play, and I want to know I can get paid. There it is. Relationships, they're still up there, but they're third on the totem pole as far as he's concerned. This would be a huge, huge recruiting feather for Coach Josh Henson and House of Victory. That's what it's going to take. It's between USC and Texas. That's what everybody's feeling right now. We're going to find out August 23rd. Can USC pull this rabbit out of their hat? Because you bring him in, all of a sudden, USC's recruiting momentum, this is one of those types of add-ons that catches the attention of the other elite blue chippers out there that USC's interested in. And who knows? Maybe with that, Juju Lewis will finally shut it down. Yeah, I'm that dog with a bone in his mouth. Not going to let go until it happens. So we'll see. Hopefully I can get Kash on here soon. I like the addition. I like what he brings to the program. I'm ready for fall camp to come to an end. But we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to talk about the wide receivers and what's required of those guys. That's coming up next. The wide receivers, you've heard me say it. I'll say it again. And this is not hyperbole. They're going to be damn good. They're going to be really, really, really good. Exclamation point. Today, during practice, everyone had an, oh my God, hold your breath moment with Zachariah. Yeah. So, as you know, one of the first things the media sees when we walk through Goo Gate inside Howard Jones Field, right there in front of our face, the return specialist. Zachariah is one of the return specialists. Now, he was receiving a punt, and it was a booming kick, by the way. This one is not hyperbole. This one had some really good hang time. I don't remember who kicked it. It doesn't matter. What matters is this. When Zachariah went down, he slipped. He lost his footing. But he popped right back up. He gave one of those exaggerated safe, like he was an umpire. Everybody took a deep breath. Okay. The last person you want me giving you bad news about, right? Right? I'll tell you what was really cool, and you probably saw it during the walkout video. Zachariah, Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane coming out together. Yeah, that's a scary trio. You saw Deuce Robinson, number 2, all by himself walking out. He's confident. You got Kyle Ford. You got Kyron Hudson, Jaden Richardson, Xavier Jordan, Jay Fair, the transfer from Auburn, Josiah Zamora, USC's own Wes Welker type of wide receiver. Do not be surprised if you see him getting good playing time. I'm just saying. As far as Mekhi, shoe alert today, he was wearing the Air Force One, those Jordans. I didn't know they made them in cleats, but they do. Red, black, and white. So the wide receivers, first of all, the reason they came to USC, they've got some really good quarterbacks that are always going to be throwing the ball towards them. They're getting their timing patterns down. Today, when I was watching them running their routes against air, those deep fade patterns into the end zone, Miller Moss, Jaden Mayava, Jake Jensen, just dropping dimes. Beautiful throws. Gage Roy, Dillian Gebbia. Who else am I missing? There's a lot of walk-on quarterbacks this year. I apologize. I will make sure I mention your name if I didn't mention it today. Excuse me. But catching at USC, catching the ball is not the only thing that's going to get you on the field. You need to have good hands. The other thing that's going to get you on the field, yep. I think I mentioned it, but let me say it again. Remember that? Remember the flanker screen that Lane Kiffin and Sarkisian, Clay Helton, they fell in love with? It's still part of the playbook. So you better be a willing blocker out there on the edge. No blocky, no rocky. That's what Travis Dye said when it came to the running backs. Same concept applies if you play wide receiver. So today, one of the last drills I saw as they were walking us out of practice, which, by the way, maybe it's just me, but it seems like our viewing sessions are getting shorter and shorter. Anyways, I'm going to complain. We're real live, up close and personal with the linebackers. Saw some good stuff from them today. Saw some good stuff from the offensive line, defensive line group as well. Running backs. But again, as we were walking out, focused on the wide receivers today. Saw those guys working that sideline, one-step drop, getting that ball out there as quick as you can on a rope. Two guys against one cornerback, get that wide receiver screen, get that tunnel open so he can make a play. Basically, that flanker screen, it's just an extended handoff. It's another way of picking up 4, 5, 6 yards at a clip. You just want to create that mismatch. You got some open space out there. Again, I'm not going to tell you who was lined up and doing what, but again, the wide receivers, you have to be able to block on this team, or you're not going to be on the field. I don't care what size you are. If you're a slot guy or if you're one of the bigger outside receivers, does not matter. All right, so there you go. Another episode. There's a practice report. Now we know who that big 6'3", 310-pound lineman is. His name is Kash. USC. Picked up a big old bag. Are they going to be dropping the bag next week for Nick Brooks? We're going to find out. Stay tuned to Locked on USC. This is where you're going to get all your news and notes and information every single day, 5 times a week. We're getting close to the season. And when you're not making Locked on USC your first listen every day, well, when you're done making Locked on USC your first listen every day, finish up here. Check out Locked on College Football. Get on over to wearesc.com. There is so much content for you right now. You can spend half your day upsetting your boss or your wife, your significant other, whomever, because you're not being productive because you're paying attention to so much USC football content. That's what we're here for. To keep you distracted, to get you ready. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.